it's Erin Vandenborn, and welcome to another presentation recorded in Waterloo, Ontario for the PHES class in Edmonton, Alberta. The topic that I will be talking about today is nuclear energy, and the clickbait title that I have come up with for that is The Nuclear Age, Utopian Solution or Dystopian Future. The following presentation will look at the coming end of fossil fuels and how that has led to the desire and pursuit of nuclear energy. It will focus on the environmental implications as well as the moral and value implications for our society in the coming exploration and use of nuclear energy. The inspiration for this topic rests heavily in an art style called retrofuturism. It's a style of illustration conceived in the 1950s and 60s that depicts predictions of the future. It features daily life interacting with new technology, and it is characterized by bright colors, easeful suburban life, and extreme optimism. I love this photo right here. This boy is wearing what looks to be just some plastic glasses and a plastic helmet, but the look on his face is one of shock and awe, and that's kind of what defines the genre of retrofuturism. And it made me think about how we look at our future and where we might be hilariously optimistic and completely wrong. I'll show you a few more pictures to give you an idea of what retrofuturism looks like. And while you're looking at these, think about where our predictions for the future might be just as hilariously wrong.
Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream. Make him the cutest that I've ever seen. Give him two lips like roses and clover. Then tell him that his lonesome nights are over. Sandman.
Those particular illustrations come from a comic strip that ran for many years in the 1950s and 60s by Arthur Redabaugh, and it was called Closer Than You Think. And if you take a look back at the photos, you can see the mix of 1950s suburbanism with futurology and optimism. This picture features a jetpack mailman, and the next picture shows the future of dining, and in the home you can see this all-seeing eyes TV robot that's cooking pizza and floating on an air cushion, just easing away the pain of modern society. This woman here, she has time to look fabulous and provide an amazing meal, and her daughter is just absolutely delighted with this new technology. This photo shows how they think farming would be. You can see the giant corn and the giant tomatoes, the gamma ray sprinkler, and you can see the farmer is wearing like a spacesuit and he looks extremely tough and cool, unlike the drudgery of how farming is in the 1950s. If you're still confused about what retrofuturism is, you can think back to a childhood TV show, The Jetsons, which is based heavily on the idea of retrofuturism, showing a happy family that is all normal by 1950s standard, but places them into the future and has all these interesting inventions that are featured in retrofuturism. So the question I would like to pose is nuclear energy our own brand of futurism? Are we too optimistic about the power of nuclear energy, our ability to generate it in a way that is completely clean and sustainable? And also are we too optimistic about our ability to deal with the wasteful byproducts of nuclear energy and the unintended consequences that it might cause? I googled nuclear energy, and the first image that pops up on Wikipedia is this one. You can see the beautiful, lush green crops among the nuclear reactors with a rainbow above. And to me, this shows that maybe, yes, it is our new brand of retrofuturism. It shows that we think of nuclear energy as the perfect solution to transition away from fossil fuels, and that we can still have that perfect future without having to make any changes in our own lifestyles. Therefore, my thesis is the adoption of nuclear energy should not be viewed as a utopian solution, but rather a bridge from fossil fuel addicted society to one with modest alternative sustainable energies. I will argue that the transition plan must not involve the unconstrained optimism in technology, which will lead to further energy addiction, but towards a careful, realistic plan for our future energy needs. One of the most important undertones in this conversation of nuclear energy is the idea that we will run out of fossil fuels, and that the capacity of the environment to deal with the byproducts of fossil fuels is diminishing. The oil sands are a great example of how we are running out of easily available fossil fuels, and now we have to go to more extreme lengths to find energy in our soil, and that these new energy sources are more resource intensive. They have a lower energy return on energy investment, and that because of this, we need to search for replacements to continue the energy that our society is based on at its very core. If you think about all the basic requirements for modern life, such as electricity, transportation, clothing, manufactured goods, waste management, and food production, they've all become inalienable from fossil fuels, and therefore we need to look towards nuclear energy to fill these needs. There are many reasons to be hopeful about the future of nuclear energy and the way it might be able to solve our problems. One of the most appealing things is that the process creates little or no greenhouse gases. It's only a small amount of atoms being used to create a large amount of energy, so it's more efficient. For the same volume of fuel, it produces more energy than carbon-based fuels. Nuclear power generation is also relatively cheap, costing less than 2 cents per kilowatt hour for operations, maintenance, and fuels. Also, a reason to be hopeful about nuclear is that it has a pretty good track record for providing clean and reliable energy compared to other energy sources like wind and solar, which are more variable than the steady nuclear energy. Another reason why pursuing nuclear fission could be a positive thing is that it could lead to technological advances such as nuclear fusion, which could give us a limitless supply of energy. However, there are still serious problems associated with nuclear energy. Uranium, which is used to generate the nuclear reactions, is non-renewable and needs to be mined. The National Energy Agency has estimated that the current known stocks of uranium are only enough to facilitate reactors for only about 200 years at the current rates of consumption. This means that any further future in nuclear energy depends on further exploration and better technology when it comes to extracting uranium. Also, in order to prevent high-risk radioactive material from being harmful, it needs to be buried deeply and permanently underground. This material remains active for 240,000 years, which poses challenges pertaining to the cost of these long-term storage facilities, as well as the shifting and changing geography. If there are any miscalculations, or if there is a natural disaster such as a earthquake, humanity risks consequences including genetic disorders and cancers. Along with ensuring the ground stays steady, the political system must also maintain itself, as nuclear installations could become target for terrorist attacks, as well as there could be increased instances of weaponized nuclear reactions. Nuclear energy is not a promise of clean, infinite power, but should be viewed rather as an extended grace period in transitioning to sustainable energy use. Both energies, fossil fuels and nuclear, call for extreme applications of technology and extreme changes to natural systems. These should both come with very careful and calculated consideration. These changes do not have any promise of restoration or continuance. E.F. Schumacher illustrates in his book Small is Beautiful what a serious undertaking nuclear energy is. He writes, "The proposition to replace thousands of millions of tons of fossil fuels every year by nuclear energy means to solve the fuel problem by creating an environmental and ecological problem of such monstrous magnitude. It means solving one problem by shifting it to another sphere, there to create an infinitely bigger problem." Because of this, since nuclear energy is needed to transition off of fossil fuels, it is important that it's done in a way that does not facilitate a larger energy addiction and that the values of society change with the source of fuel that we use. This will mean a holistic change towards community-oriented and modest living. People will have to change their daily habits and be more conscious about how their actions are connected to the energy system. People have to replace their cars with bikes. Avocados at the grocery store will have to be replaced with local vegetables. Furniture crafted in China could be made with scrap wood in their own communities instead. People will have to work on skilling up and doing more for themselves and their neighbors, internalizing more of their energy needs and using less of the energy externally from the grid. What this could look like is really passionate and effective bottom-up management, with people starting to work in their own communities to transition to low energy living, and educating others about our energy system and how their individual actions are connected to fossil fuels or nuclear energy, and showing them the consequences of such use that aren't always perceptible. So to end my presentation, I would like to draw some conclusions. Our hope for the future should not be that of flying cars, robot butlers, anti-gravity belts, as featured in retrofuturism, but rather for sustainability. The end of oil is imminent. We have always known this, that it is a non-renewable resource, but we need to accept that fossil fuels will come to an end. Nuclear is a viable option for transition away from fossil fuels, but also comes with many environmental consequences in itself that mean that if we do decide to pursue nuclear energy, we need to do it carefully and with a plan to actually transition away for it in the future. Nuclear energy is not perfect, but it's not the enemy either. Overconsumption will always lead to problems, regardless of how the energy is generated. The way society values energy must be the factor that changes. Individual responsibility, followed by community action, may facilitate this change in values. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation. If you have any questions or comments, or you just want to chat, you can always email me. And if you don't get around to that, I will be around next semester, so we can always chat then. Bye!
That I've ever seen. Bum, 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 bum. Give him two lips flowers and clover. Then tell him that his lonesome nights are over. Sandman, I'm so alone. Don't have nobody to call my own. Please turn on your magic beam. Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream. Bum 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 bum.